encourages me and it inspires me because this program is not about me. It's about it that the Lord has given me. He is using the skill sets that He has placed inside of me in the area of broadcasting, over the experience in public relations and marketing and business development. And I brought that energy to program. And so and then there are those of you who stray various states, whether it's Michigan to Atlanta to Louisiana, New Orleans to Philadelphia to Baltimore, and we even have several of you that out of the country in the U.S. So we're very grateful for that. I know every Thursday you land here intentionally. I don't take that for granted. The fact that you trust us for 60 minutes to say something very positive, to say something that is encouraging, that is not superficial, that we don't mismanage your time today. And I'm grateful for that. I hope that you're doing well. I really hope that you're doing well wherever you are. I pray that you're doing well. I want you to carry my best life, that you embrace before. But the name Gibbs, if you say, hasn't he been on the program before? No, but I've had the delightful honor and once judge attorney Robert Gibbs on this program a couple of times. Pleasure recently within the last 9 months of hosting his mother, then state representative, now Judge Deborah Gibbs on this program. And he is the acorn, he is the apple that didn't fall from in terms of commitment to community activism, to the spirit of philanthropy. He got it, all right. But he just didn't grow up with the silver spoon because I know his parent, his body of work is impressive because he has worked more. So Justice Gibbs, I'm not going to meander. I'm going to get right in it because I want you to hear from this young man. I want you to hear the passion that he has for the state of Mississippi. Can anything good come out of Mississippi? Yes. Justice Gibbs is the living example of good things happening in Mississippi. Justice, welcome to Defining Moments.
Thank you so much, sir. It's such a pleasure to be here today and to finally join you on your show. You know, I've watched you for a minute, and I'm so glad that you were able to have my parents on your show to speak about not only legal issues, but also judicial issues and community related issues. And it's just a pleasure for you to open up the doors to young people, young professionals. One thing I really like about your shows is that there really are no parameters. You allow everyone to who are living in their purpose to come and share, and that's what I'm here to do.
Well, you know what? Media, you watch the news, you get that brief news clip, that news snippet, and sometimes they have they have a tendency to show the worst of the community, the worst of the young people, how bad things are. And so when I see young people that are committed, that are focused, that are energized, that are energetic, that are very positive things, then I want to showcase that as well, because I want you to know people that would wonder, is it possible for me to do very positive things? Now, let me say this. Let me put, figuratively speaking, let me put a little dressing on the mannequin here, okay? Even though you come, and I say this not loosely or not arrogantly or for them narcissistically, but you come from a very family. But you've had to work for where you are an associate in your family attorney, your father's attorney, but you have to work to get here. You go for it. So I would like for you just to kind of share. Want to purposely didn't read your. First of all, I don't have that much time, and I don't want to turn this into an academic kind of program. I want people to hear the passion and to hear the journey. It's kind of a testimony as well to hear the journey of Justice Gibbs.
Absolutely. Well, again, my name is Justice Gibbs, a practicing attorney here in Jackson, Mississippi, a place where I was born and raised. I was born and raised in the Woodley neighborhood, which is a part of the North Jackson community. And growing up, I started, earning my faith and having a foundation in faith and academics at New Hope Christian School. It provided a really solid backing, governed by Reverend Dr. Jerry Young and Mrs. Helen Young.
And if that name's found for me, he's the president of the National Baptist Association. National.
That's right. That's right. Because of this leadership.
Yeah.
And after that foundation is when I attended Jackson Public Schools, K through 12. I started at Boyd Elementary and I went to McWillie, Chastain Middle School, and Murrah High School. And after Murrah High School, I attended Howard University, where I earned a bachelor's in political science, also a minor in strategic, legal, and management community, which has really helped me in my practice communicate with so many people. And after that, I decided to go to law school because I always wanted to come back home to Jackson, Mississippi, to be an example for those who were aspiring to go to college as well as graduate school, to those who were excited and today in JPS, still involved. But after that, I really wanted to figure out what is it that I could do as a young professional to really move the needle here in the state of Mississippi so that people could see young people in positions of leadership, so that young people can get excited about exercising their right to vote, excited about getting involved in politics. And so that's just one of the things that I've made a part of my purpose and journey.
And it's interesting, I'm going to put a comma there. It's interesting that your high school career, if you will, your schooling was in public school, your education was in public school. One would assume, erroneously and unfortunately, that your parents, family of affluence, that they would demand that their son and daughter attend parochial school or private school. And there are some great parochial and private schools in the Jackson metropolitan areas, but they didn't. And so it would be unfortunate, be misdirected for people to assume that your family just said, listen, you don't have to go to public schools because public school has some flaws and defaults and defects. We're going to put you in private school.
Well, I think my parents also realized that public schools develop a well-rounded individual who can go into any room and be confident in who they are and whose they are. I'll tell you that public school education is really what has propelled me. It has equipped me going into college as well as in my legal practice, because we represent all types of people, and not just among racial lines, but financial lines, socioeconomic lines, and people along religious lines. And it's important to have that organic sort of.
Listen, I want you to hold that thought. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm with my very esteemed young guest, Attorney Justice Gibbs, on Defining Moment. I got to tell you what, you're going to be blessed. You're going to be encouraged. Hang on in there. I don't want you to run off the road, those of you who are driving. And for those of you who are live streaming us, I want you to stay tuned. More Defining Moments. So your parents, first of all, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. I know that you have a choice every Thursday, but the fact that you land here, and then there are those of you who say, I can't make it today, but I'll come back and watch the podcast. You do that as well, and you tell me I am grateful for that. So thank you for hanging in there with us, and thank you for joining us. I know you're going to be encouraged today and inspired. And even if Attorney Justice step on your shoes, it's nothing personal. It's because he wants the best out of you. So let's talk about you going to law school. All right. Did you have a choice? Because I know some tell their children, this is what you're going to do. All right. And they follow the career path of their parents. Did your parents tell you, or were they just, did they influence you, or did they demand you to do this?
Yeah, they are two people in my life that I look up to the most because they really allowed me and my sister to grow into who God ordained us to be.
Wow.
Now, I will say that they definitely influenced my decision because I saw how they were able to effectuate the community in what they did professionally and also what they do on their off time. And I saw how those two roads kind of diverged into one. It really inspired me to go to school, go to college first. And I've always wanted to represent people. I've always wanted to represent people who uh, needed that quality representation, whether it be premises liability or civil defense litigation. And even in my work with the George C. Cochran Innocence Project, which was the first legal clinic that I got involved in law school, which focuses on um, overturning wrongfully convicted individual sentences in the Mississippi correctional system. And so when you really see the faces of your kids, when you're actually doing something for them that's positive, it's going to move their life in the right direction. I was able to see that at a very young age. So I was able to be exposed to some things that some others may not have been. So I wanted to take advantage of that and see how I could continue their legacy and how they've affected people's lives.
And because of the respect that you and the regards that you have for your parent, you regarded their input, their wisdom as a very positive thing, not in a negative way.
That's right. That's right. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. There should be, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Defining Moments. Thank you for those of you. I make on those you make an intentional effort to
household of four. I again, I think that
And they're sought after internationally. You know, your parents just don't have counseled, clients locally. I'm talking about international, on the international stage. So can that be a little intimidating to Justice?
it could be, but I have something I'd like to add to that. What I thought about while studying.
I want you to hold that point. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Hi, Tina. Listen, it's time for us to do coffee. You're talking about someone akin to your spirit. She left the corporate world, and now she's doing community kingdom work. Stay tuned. Justice Gibbs. So then let's talk about that.
Absolutely.
All right.
I thought about what I represent, not only in my family, but to the community. I'm the young black family. I'm the youngest, I'm the baby. And I made it a commitment to pass that exam.
You made a commitment. So for you, you didn't have an option.
It wasn't an option. Now, again, I put the test in God's hands. And God came back and said, well, Justice, you need to take it again. And that would have been fine. But I wanted to do everything that I could to be that example of that young black male of a family being able to pass that bar exam on the first try. And I was successful in it. And I prayed out spiritual in the direction of the process, but thank you so much.
But for those that took it and didn't pass the second, third, or fourth time, does it mean that they're less qualified? What does it say to you, and how would you encourage them, even if they're in the process and they got notice that you didn't pass? I want you to talk about that on the other side of the commercial break. Hey, thanks for joining in. Welcome back to Defining Moments. I'm your host, Larry Nix, and I'm with my guest today, my friend, Justice Attorney Justice Gibbs. I'm just reading a comment that, yes, you're right, Tina. He is a remarkable young man. And, is it burdensome having to carry the torch that you carry, because you're having to carry the name torch of your parents and your grandparents and high expectations of you in the community?
It's a privilege. It is an honor.
Not a burden, but what a wonderful perspective.
It is. Yeah.
I'm so encouraged when I'm around you, young man.
It really is an honor. I mean, it's just an honor to make them proud. And I think it goes back to the exam, the upbringing, the education. It is simply amazing. It makes me feel great. It makes my my family members, just to be the example that they once envisioned. And I don't feel burdened. I just feel privileged. I feel happy. I'm excited to be able to carry on a legacy and do it in a way in which they would be proud.
I believe, and I said, and I shared this with your father, and your father agreed. In fact, I think he pioneered this phraseology that we're conduits and not barns. The inference being that God didn't create us just to hoard our skill sets and our resources, but He created us that if He can trust us with it to get it out of us, then He'll trust us with it. We're conduits. We're pathways. And so it is not enough. It is, as you said to yourself, that I'm just going to be a great attorney. I'm going to be a top-notch attorney. But also, I've said on this program that we all have defining moments. There's a day, there's an hour, there's a minute, there's a second that God says, now I'm going to tap you. This is why I had you to do this. We all have those moments that God brings in front of us, our purpose. Some of us ignore it, and some of us embrace it. All right. And I said it so profoundly that Jesus had a defining moment in Garden of Gethsemane. He said, let the cup pass from me. Nevertheless, he realized his purpose not my will, but thine will be done. Paul had a purpose. He realized it on the Damascus Road that his purpose was greater than him aggrandizing himself, you know. And so I want to talk about your defining moment. That when you said there's much more inside of me than just being being a great attorney, because you are an associate at your father's law firm, right? So you're having to walk the same path. But one day, I don't know if it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, one day you had a defining moment about, I believe that the Lord is calling me to do more. I want you to talk about that.
So I believe one of my defining moments was when my grandfather was still alive. And my grandfather, everyone in the family jokes because he was a very strict man, you know, growing up in the civil rights era, raising my father during the 1950s and early 1960s. And I remember being at home at every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, we would go right over there on Elmwood Circle, and we would all gather, all the Gibbs in Jackson, we would gather in fellowship with one another. And my assistant, until he got a little bit older, and he began to cry. And he began to cry about his love for his family.
Wow.
Simply being in a room with all of his family members, it was like you just couldn't beat that. You can travel me anywhere around this globe. There's nowhere else I would rather be. After all the things that he's seen, all the things he's done,
yeah,
to sit there at his age as the head of the family,
the patriarch,
patriarch of the family, and tears just rolled down, tears of happiness. And it happened.
Did that take you aback? Like, I've never seen this before.
It took me aback as his grandson, absolutely. It took me back being in high school at the time. I was like, this is bigger than me, you know. The things that he endured and went through. My grandmother was a part of the first cohort in 1963 to be one of the first school crossing guards in the Jackson Police Department. Never seen an African American woman or man as school crossing guard. She stood outside of Walton Elementary School every single day, never missed one day of work. People driving down the road intentionally, yelling things, spitting, doing things to knock her off of her mission to make sure that those little kids got from one side of the street to the other so they could go and earn a good education. Didn't miss a day of work. So when I think about that, I understand the importance of those tears, why they are tears of happiness. Not a, I'm so happy to be here. It's deep. It's deeper, you know?
I can feel it now. There, someone is watching and they feel like giving up. What's the use? Why does it matter? How would you encourage with the same spirit that your grandmother had, that you springboard from? You're gonna hear vulgarity. You're gonna hear insult, but you can't let that get you off your game. You got to get back in the game. How would you encourage them about that?
So the first thing is, I would say, I don't think my grandmother understood at that time what her experience could have done for the generations and generations that's coming after her.
Wow.
And that's what I mean about there's always somebody watching you. They may not even be born yet, but they're watching you. They are going to be inspired by your story. And you have to continue to keep telling your story, even in enduring, just enduring so much. And I think about Philippians 4:13, where it says that I can endure all of these things through the power of the Lord who strengthens me. You know, enduring sometimes in times of controversy and negativity, you know, keeping the faith is important not only for yourself, but it's important for those, your children, your grandchildren, and even those in the community that are looking up to you. You have no idea. You know, sometimes I see some of my old friends and I just can't, for some reason, I just can't wrap it in my head. Like my friends at Murrow, I served as student body president at the time. I was also Mr. Murrow High School, and people would come up to me and just say, you know, I look up to you, or like, you know, those people, they always talking about you, they look up to you. And I'm like, look up to me? Like, I mean, for what? You know, it's hard to wrap your head around sometimes that there are people who look to you as an example. Like, I want to be like that.
Wow.
And it's probably humility, you know, the down to earthness, but like it's important to realize that there's always somebody looking up to you.
For those persons that don't have the Gibbs last name, that they don't have the access, and they say, but I don't have your influence, I don't have your affluence, I don't even know who my daddy is. And I don't see my mom half the time. It's not because she didn't want to be with me, it's because she's working four jobs just to keep us together. And so I don't have it. But is there still room for me at the table, Justice?
There's room right now at the table because all of those things that you mentioned are material. They are material. And so that's not really what counts. It doesn't matter, you know. We're gonna get to a space where none of that stuff is attached to anybody. No, nothing in terms of a name or what you have, all of that stuff is material. That's why it really gets to me when I see people in positions of power so attached to materialism, as though that is the ultimate goal, you know. And I think it happens more so to people who are thinking about themselves or self-inflated, you know. But that's why I think the foundation is important. You understand that there are people who are watching you that are looking up to you. It could be somebody, you know, it could be somebody who rides their bike up and down your street who looks to you and you have no idea, you know. Uh, those are the things that I think are important to add into your foundation as you go throughout life, because there will be a day where all of those things that you mentioned that a lot of people on this earth care about, they will vanish before your eyes. And then what are you left with?
And then what?
Mm-hmm.
When the things are taken away, then what? What shall it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? What shall a man give in exchange for his soul? The word of God says that our goal, our energy should not be spent on trying to accumulate a barn full of stuff. But if we do have it, once again, and I say it 15 times, God don't mind us having stuff. He don't want stuff having us. And stuff should not, nor should we think it defines us. But that God uses, and He wants us to utilize that stuff to build the community that He has placed us in for that time. And I'm going to spend the remainder of our time talking about a defining moment that you said, I need to do this. It may not make sense to a lot of folk, but I need to do this. Stay tuned. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, you had a defining moment. It is not as if, you know, your father said you need to run off and do this, but something happened. And I want to talk about that. And you talked about you really being affected by your grandfather on a Thanksgiving Day. Let's move from that and let's move to your decision.
Sure. Yeah. It was also the classmates in Murrah who saw something in me too, because I'd always thought, well, I want to do something, but I just don't know. You know, what if you always go into those what ifs? And one of my friends just put my name on the ballot. Her name is Jonna Gibbs, and I give her credit to this day.
The ballot for what?
I was running for, I believe it was sophomore class president, something like that. And she put my name on there. She said, Justice, I'm putting your name on here. I think it would be great. She saw something in me. And that almost kind of spurred me into staying in leadership, or seeing the importance and the value of leadership and amongst my peers. The things that they wanted me to fight for, to the school administration, as well as what we call downtown at Jackson Public Schools.
Yeah.
That propelled me to sit on the student board of trustees. We talked about, you know, that's before the academies actually hit the ninth graders at all of the 7 high schools in the area. It's because somebody saw something in me and said, Justice, I think you would be good. And the classmates around me supported me. They saw that I was doing the work that they sent me there to do. And we need the same type of leaders, you know, in public office as well, who understands how important it is to stay connected to community and to bring back the resources that the community deserves.
So are you telling me that being a public servant is not about aggrandizing yourself and enhancing your portfolio and your resume and jockeying for positions for yourself? It's not about that?
It's not about that.
Wow.
It's not about that.
Wow.
and you're on point. It's not about what is in it for me.
Yeah,
And we have so many people
that are
with
like that.
mentality.
Yeah, hold that thought. Welcome back to Defining Moment, Attorney Justice Gibbs. So you are seeking a position with the Mississippi State Legislature.
Yes, sir.
All right, but I'm finding out it is something that has started. This spirit, this energy started way back in high school.
Yes.
All right. This is just another step, another layer, another decision for you doing what you've all done, what you've always done, and that is representing constituents. All right. In high school, you represented your peers, all right, your classmates, and now you're deciding to do it on a larger scale,
Yes.
using the same skill sets that you've developed. All right. And so why?
Because there's a void that needs to be filled.
All right, let's talk about what it is that you are doing.
Yes.
All right. And for those that are looking, you probably can see this beautiful card, this well-designed card. What is this all about?
So I'm running to become the next state representative for Mississippi House District 72. It's an area that encompasses a part of my village where I've been born and raised in District 72, so North Jackson, as well as the southern portion of Ridgeland. It's an open seat now that former Representative Deborah Gibbs has gone on to become a circuit judge, and therefore people vying for this seat. And my message to the community is that I've been focused on running a campaign that is for the people of the district in which I would represent. Those people who are all within those district lines have a voice. And I want to make sure that their voice is adequately represented at the Mississippi Legislature. That's what representative government is all about. You're supposed to listen to the people who sent you. And I always
that seat doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the people.
Exactly.
And you're there at the will of the people to do the work of the people.
Exactly.
Man, we get that. I think we've gotten that just confused. A lot of professional lifelongers, 20 years, 15 years, 16 years. I think people have just gotten that confused. Like, I own this seat and I do what I want to. I'm not obligated. Or they tell you what you want to hear 60, 90 days before the election.
And sometimes even people who are still running for office in various seats across the state still have that mentality, as though it's a gift that's been given to them by the people who vote, and that, thank you so much for this, and let me figure out what I'm going to do. No, that seat is a vessel for us to effectuate change and bring back realistic, tangible solutions to the issues people are dealing with locally. And listening to what is it that the people, the homeowner association presidents, what is it that they are asking for their representative to go do? We have three different sectors of government that can actually remedy issues through appropriations of funds within our district. You have the city, you have the county, and you have the state. And one thing that I've learned is that particularly in majority Black areas, we don't receive our just due with state appropriated dollars. So we need to elect somebody who understands the legislative process, who has the relationships within the chamber, who can work with 121 other individuals all across the state who are fighting and vying for things for their community as well, to make sure that we bring something back. So when I go back and I walk down the street and I think about Ms. Mamie, who everybody points to when I ask her what are some of the issues, and they say, well, she has to leave every Tuesday and Thursday to go get her insulin, and her car is rocking like this. What is it that you can do from the state level to issue a non-issue?
So I asked the question. Hello, Aunt Dane, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. You always tune in. I'm so grateful to always see you. So thank you very much. Hope you're doing well. All right. We pray for you every day. So for someone to ask why and I'm always concerned about losing the state of Mississippi, losing the brain trust of people like you, because it seems like it's just hard to live in the state of Mississippi because of so many purposed barriers and a lot of fun behind closed doors, the dark smoking, the rooms, the evil politics. Why are you engaging? Why are you immersing yourself? The training, the formal training, have the energy. So I'm encouraged that you're not electing to leave the state. I'm encouraged by that. But also, we've got to make sure that those of us in the game, if you will, for a while, to entrust the mantle over to you to get it done. So, number one, I guess two-part question. What drives your passion to stay here, and why did you choose to run for this office?
Well, what drew my passion to stay here is that I'm really needed here in the state of Mississippi.
I am needed here.
I am needed here. And sometimes you know where you are needed without anybody telling you. See, sometimes people may not view it as though we need young, but I understand that it's better for that individual that I stay here as a young person to diversify these conversations that we're having, especially at the legislative level. And I look at what's happened in other states around this country. And I look at how the young electorate voting numbers have spiked because they've put young people in positions. Young people feel seen, young people feel heard, and young people understand, oh, I have power on election day. I can go in and I can choose a person and affect their candidacy. And we have to make sure that we are respecting young professionals, young people, young Mississippians. I tell you, there are, I don't know how many youth empowerment camps and weeks that people put on, but once those individuals are empowered, when they are educated, when they are working in the community, it's time for them to have an opportunity to serve, to step up, and to be able to make Mississippi a better place. And
I see one. Hey, Bruce, I see you, man. I appreciate you joining, saying, boy, we need to keep young people here to lead and not be afraid to turn the mantle over to them, because we've told our young people, get prepared, go to school, get an education, and prepare yourself. And so if not now, when? If not you, then who? And that's what you're saying. You've prepared yourself for this season.
yes,
And you've developed relationships, but they're not for you to hoard and to build and to put substance in, but for you to bring the resources to the community.
right,
Those are the ones that, I think when we talk about government, it's like this big old bear, this big old monster. The government, it the people that represent us. And so you need to hold them accountable. And you're saying that you have the energy, you have the passion, you have the vision to take that to the state legislature, represent your constituents, and to get things done for your community.
yes.
So how do you deal with stalemate? How do you deal with the old guard that just don't want to let it loose?
Well, you have to take advantage of opportunities with an open seat, and you have to be committed in the midst of adversity to continue to push your message and explain why this will lead us to a better Mississippi. Now, I will tell you that there's a very small bucket of voters who I've had to convince, as I've stated previously, to look beyond the traditional view of what you have in your head as what a politician is supposed to look like. See, sometimes that
That's
trips
good.
us up.
That's good. That's good.
It narrows our vision of who can actually represent us. And we're not looking at the backing. We're not looking at who has the legislative expertise, who understands more than just saying, well, I want to go up there and I want to make sure that we have, better voting rights. I want to make sure, those things are very generic. When we get deep into the surface and we talk about the importance of understanding how the bill is authored and what committee chairman is actually aligned with being over whether your bill comes out of committee, whether your bill is even debated. We talk about how to get a bill out of committee onto the House schedule, how to collaborate and work with the House Speaker, who is the one who puts that bill from the schedule to the floor.
Or not.
And you have to have good relationships with people who may not look like you and may not think like you in order to get those things done.
So you're not intimidated with people who don't think like you.
No, you have to work with people outside of this country that don't look or think like us. And what do? What is our government tasked with doing? We have to collaborate. We have to communicate, right? Because we want to protect our homeland.
And I believe, unfortunately, justice, that's the environment that folk purposely, they get paid a lot of money here. This us,
Yeah.
and they've set up. I heard someone say in a soundbite the other day that I refuse to work across the aisle. Well, that person should never get elected because no man is an island. No person is an island. And if you refuse to talk to people, then you're never going to get anything done. It's the ability to talk to people, and it's the ability to compromise, and the ability to understand what the needs are, particularly when it comes to you, your district. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. I'm with this just impressive young man, Attorney Justice Gibbs, on Defining Moment. We're going to talk about his platform in just a few minutes. Stay tuned. So I see that a couple of people that are in your district that are tuning in. There are several people outside of the state. Of course, what are some of the needs of your current campaign right now?
Yes. So the needs of the constituents.
The needs, first of all, your campaign.
Okay.
You need support financially.
Yes.
Do you need support of volunteers?
Yes, absolutely. And I encourage everyone who's listening in to go to www.votejusticegives.com. My name is spelled Justis, and that's where you can donate to my campaign, support a young professional running to try to change the landscape of Mississippi politics. But you also can volunteer. We have a volunteer portal.
I want you to hold that. I don't want anyone to miss this.
All right.
So welcome back. Listen, there are a couple of people that are tuned in and logging on and said, well, we need to keep young talent like this in the state. Because I got to tell you, unfortunately, and you hear all the time, and it's true in some instances, and I want to know, how do you deal with it? So first of all, I want you to tell people how they can support your campaign financially or volunteer or whatever. Then I want you to deal with the question of the public relation of our state outside. Because when I travel outside of our state, there are people who don't think highly of our state. All right. They think that folk are still riding horses and no, not wearing shoes and can't congregate a sentence. And when they look at you, they see you as an exception rather than the rule. And I say that no, we want to change the mindset that justice is the rule and not the exception. All right. That you're not an anomaly. You're not an alien. That this is who we are. We've just not been given a voice. All right. So I have a responsibility. I have a voice, and I'm going to utilize that voice for the good of the community. All right. So number one, how do people support your campaign?
Yes. So you may log on to www.votejusticegives.com. My first name is spelled Justis. Last name is Gibbs. And so that's where you can donate to the campaign. You also can sign up to volunteer. We just had someone sign up.
I just had somebody buzz me that said, give that, how they can support you again.
Yes, votejusticegives.com. JUSTISGIBBS.com.
Okay.
Yes, and I have Act Blue as well as set up on my website.
Okay.
And that's the place where you can go on to financially contribute.
Okay.
And also, again, you may volunteer. We had someone who reached out to us, heard us on the radio, and said, I want to get involved. I want to get on the ground.
Good.
And we have them on the ground today.
Good. Man, young people want to get involved because I think that you are getting passion that was growing wearied. In particular your demographic, because what I'm hearing is nobody's listening to us. They're not giving us the platform to talk, and I think subliminally, you're being utilized by the Lord to accomplish several things. To really speak to those wearied and worn and feel like, well, what's the heck? I think you're bringing new passion to that civil rights generation. Those that have said, man, it's just so much gerrymandering going on, redistricting, drawing. It's just so much undercover stuff, just ungodly, dark stuff going on. When they look and hear justice, then they feel encouraged. So how do you deal with the bad public relations of can anything good come out of Mississippi?
Well, I think this is why I'm trying to take this next step. because this is an opportunity for me as well as our community to showcase, you know, what Mississippi can produce and what is the true image of Mississippi. You know, I think about Congressman Maxwell Frost, who's younger than me. You know, he is helping, he is assisting in trying to turn the reputation that unfortunately some state elected officials have created in Florida to show. But this is the real Florida. You know, we believe in continue to do in Mississippi is to continue to amplify, to turn the spotlight on
That's
those
good.
young,
That's
because we
good.
have plenty here in Jackson.
Yeah.
We have some young folks who are
Yeah.
doing some amazing things.
Yeah.
And so we need to keep producing them. And since we understand the importance, we're going to support those young folks who are coming after us.
And it's not the fact that, and I think there are those that would support candidates like you and the demographic like you, but they hear the propaganda, all right, and they hear the sensationalized propaganda, like, oh, I don't, because he has an axe to grind. If he's elected and he takes that office, that I'm gonna lose stuff. I'm gonna I'm gonna lose what I have, and it's not about that. It's a people. You don't have an axe to grind. You're not an angry man that you have a point to prove. What you're saying is, I want to right the ship for my district, for the taxpayers.
That's right. That's right.
And they deserve to have access to clean water, public safety, good education. They have the right for that. All right.
Right.
They have the right to have the same access to what people of maybe the affluent communities they have.
You know, sometimes we need to just check the boxes off that we know are already checked. You know, we have that. We have leaders in our community who sound the alarm. But we also need competent policymakers that will think about the people
That's the key. Policymakers.
policymakers.
That's where decisions are made, up or down. Policymakers.
Yes, sir.
And you need to have someone there who understand policy, how to write policy, fair policy, and how to push back on policies that are damaging.
And someone who knows where to go, who to seek. You know, you need to seek wise counsel, both in your community, but also those wise counsel that's within that chamber. See, you can't do anything by yourself in the legislature. I don't care how important you think you are or how close you are to your community. You can't do anything in that body unless if you have partnerships and relationships.
So in this instance, your name and you growing up in a family that your mother and father, I mean, you've been in the community, you know, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked,
Yes.
housing the homeless, providing access to good education. You just didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to run for office and I'm going to start doing this because these are good talking points. This is a part of your family fiber because your dad and your mom are first in doing a whole lot of things in terms of, you know, helping the community. Your father could be, you know, a part of a big gigantic mega church, but he still supports the family church, you know.
Yes.
And so that tells me that you don't the community that from whence you've come.
Yes.
And that's where your passion is, right?
Yes. It's part of who you are. It's a part of who you are. When you lose yourself, you lose your vision. You lose your purpose. And I think that's why, you know, and yourself included, you know, you never forget who you are, what made you to be who you are today. And I'm still a member of Free Mission Missionary Baptist Church. You know, I've had the same pastor since I was 3 years old. And it's because of
When you lose yourself, you said something powerful. When you lose yourself, you lose your purpose.
you lose your purpose, you lose your vision. You might think you still have, you might think you know what to do, but you actually don't.
So I've got to ask you a question because we only have like a couple of minutes left. Man, first of all, will you come back?
I sure would.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard him. I got him on wax. I got him on record. He said he'll come back. His dad said the same thing, and his dad has honored his word.
All right.
Why should people turn over the key to Justice Gibbs? I don't want them to forget that name. In fact, Mr. Producer, give me my camera. Why should people, because I would, all right, why should people turn turn the keys over to you.
This campaign is about effective, wise counsel in times of activity within the chambers. They have questions and ideas. And always like judiciary A and judiciary to create the state statutes and state law that govern ourselves. It's really important to elect a young professional to void of over 500,000 Mississippians aged 18 to 27 who have the right to vote but don't have any representation in either chamber of the legislature.
Take the next 15 seconds and hit your pitch, man.
So again, my name is Attorney Justice Gibbs, born and raised in District 72, and I'm running a campaign that is focused on the people of District 72. I ask for your prayers and support on August the 8th. I'm at the top of the ballot for District 72, so voters don't have to look far.
Listen, I'm going to leave it right there. I can't add anything. He is competent. He has prepared himself. He comes from a wonderful family that they say what they mean what they say. Thank you for joining us on Defining Moments. He'll be back next time. I'm sure he'll be back as Representative Justice Gibbs.
All right.
All right. See you next time on Defining Moments.